7 FM.
Shagway is really an artist these days. He's untouchable in that right flank. Shagway is still going, and it's in the net. It is in the net. Goal number 3, incredible.
Eagle 7 Sports Radio, the best sports.
It's lights out and away we go. Sebastian Vettel gets a flyer ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He's out. Two. I don't think he's getting up. He's done the left hand. Come on, get up.
The best station, the best for you.
Within one.
Eagle 7 Sports Radio. Fly with us.
Good evening. Tonight we have a potpourri of sports items on our diet of the best conversation of sports in the world. We'll be going to the world of the university games. We'll be stopping over where our man Kwadiri stopped the number 4 man in the world in table tennis. And we'll be ending up with the Super Eagles. We just heard that a new list came out this evening, and I'm sure everybody is looking at it and thinking of a new Super Eagles after Pinnick Amaju's regime. I am Segun Odegbami, Speaker of the Sports Parliament, coming to you live from the studios of Eagle 7 Sports Radio in Abeokuta. And this is available to you on all social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. And of course, you can listen to us on Garden Radio or MyTuner Radio or on your terrestrial radio if you are in the environment of the outskirts of Lagos and Abeokuta, 103.7 FM. And of course, you can also reach us during the program at a time when we will call for it. We now have facilities for you to have a short conversation with us. Should you choose to do that on radio, the number is 0700 2255 1037. Sitting in Parliament with me tonight will be, a whole group of parliamentarians who are going to take this subject and tear them apart for you. And more will be joining us as the show progresses. But returnee, the Maverick, he's back tonight. Onome Obrute, unmute yourself so that we can hear that your voice. Onome, how are you this evening? Welcome back.
Fine, Mr. Speaker, fine. Thanks for having me once again. Good to be back.
Your beards have grown longer and whiter.
It's the economy, Mr. Speaker.
Another returnee. We haven't heard her voice or seen her for quite a while. Also, unmute yourself. Chidie Bere Eziani, all the way from Abuja. How are you, Chidie Bere?
I'm very fine, Mr. Speaker. Thank you so much for having me on the show today.
Fantastic. And of course, we have Satish. I don't know where he is now. Earlier today, he was in Egypt. And I guess the man must have landed in the UK by now. Traveler extraordinaire. Satish Seka. Satish.
Yes.
Are you with
yes.
us? We can't see your face, but, let's hear your voice, even if we can't see your face.
I am here. Can you see me now?
Yes, we can. Where are you?
I'm in London.
Wow. Yeah, so welcome to the cold of London. How's the weather in London?
Outrageously cold and totally unacceptable. You have failed in your duty to
bring you some sunshine.
Here.
Don't worry,
I had to go abroad to get some sunshine, and now you have failed again.
Well, good to have you all here. Once again, this is the Sports Parliament, and I believe that one or two more parliamentarians will join us when we get into the show. But we'll be going on a short break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the World University Games that come up between July and August this year. How prepared is Nigeria? Join us after the break.
Shagway is really an artist these days. He's untouchable in that right flank. Shagway is still going, and it's in the net. It is in the net. Goal number 3, incredible.
Eagle 7 Sports Radio, the best sports.
It's lights out and away we go. Sebastian Vettel gets a flyer ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He's out too. I don't think he's getting up. He's done. The left hand. He'll never get up.
The best station. The best for you.
Within one! Within one!
Eagle 7 Sports Radio. Fly with us.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Eagle 7 Sports Radio and it's the Sports Parliament. You haven't missed anything yet. We have 3 parliamentarians in-house, but we'll be going straight to the Acting General Secretary of NUGA, who is the parliamentarian here. That's Chidi Ebere. Chidi Ebere, this is your forte. Look, in those days, we used to hear so much about the university games. And I can just quickly start to run through the list of Nigerian athletes that also competed, maybe first or later, in the World University Games. Taiwo Ogunjobi, Gloria Anyolaja, Obajimi, Pamela Williams, and so on and so forth. So many of them. Kemi Shogodei, and so on. And of late, I haven't heard much. Or in fact, I haven't heard anything about the World University Games and Nigeria's participation in it until now. But suddenly, it's in the news. Chidi Ebere, what has changed?
Mr. Speaker, first of all, you're going to give me your list of names of alumni, because that information is invaluable to us as we continue to rebrand and reposition Nigerian University Games. So, like you said, the mission really is the rebrand and repositioning of university sports in Nigeria, which is a basic foundation for sports development. School sports is very important. Actually, at the stage of university level, the athletes must have been able to compete in various events, but that has not necessarily happened in Nigeria, which means that Nigerian athletes who don't go professional on time actually find their opportunity within the university system. So for us, we're trying again, not just to put up events like we did last year during the NUGA Games, but also to give Nigerians valuable international opportunities. Like you've mentioned, there's so many athletes who, after representing Nigeria at the World University Games, did not look back. They became, the sensation of our sport from that moment onwards. And that's what we're hoping to push. So like I said, the reason we're in the news all over again is because we are rebranding and we are trying to regenerate the interest of Nigerian students, not just in sports, but in active sports participation.
Is it about the students, or is it about the universities themselves not really encouraging sport? Time was when even the national teams of Nigeria would go to a university to go and camp. At a time, we went to the University of Ife, and the population of athletes who were undergraduates in the university was so large that the national teams were moved to the University of Ife to go and camp there. I can again reel out so many names of national team athletes who were in the University of Ife, in cricket, in football, in track and field, and so on and so forth. Is it about the students not having an interest, or is it about the universities themselves not providing the platform and the whatever is required to make students to participate within the universities?
Mr. Speaker, you have to look at it holistically. It's a situation of the Nigerian system. So just like you hear on the streets, Nigeria has happened to university sports, really. So the situation is that we have not invested in the university system. And the little monies most of these universities are able to garner, they invest more into academics. We also have to understand that as a nation, despite the flurry of successes we've had in this country in sports, we still do not see it as a viable career opportunity. It is up until recently that parents are beginning to consciously push their children towards sports. So you have a situation where we are trying to re-encourage students to get into active sports participation. And in doing so, we can now put pressure or encourage universities to reinvest in sports. These facilities, you go into Nigerian universities and we don't have all the necessary facilities or even the professional coachings that we deserve. That's for lack of attention. Mr. Speaker, let's even talk about the Ministry of Sports. What's our definition? How much attention do we pay to school sports? How much attention do we pay to organizing grassroots, active grassroots development that can be traced over time? This has been our problem. And if the universities are not seeing gains, you're talking about, usually we have this parallel discussions, or we try to with the NCAA. The amount of money universities in the US or in Europe make from sports is enough to invest in sports. Let me give you a practical example, Mr. Speaker. The South African girl, Shoemeka, who won medals, 2 gold medals at the Olympics in Tokyo, when she came back from the Olympics, Audi did not just brand or rebrand the swimming pool at the school. They made sure that other facilities are put up to date because of an athlete. We don't see this happen in Nigeria. Nneka Adegoke was a student of OAU when he was blazing the track for Nigeria in all African games and other international competitions. We don't see those brands coming in to help these universities raise their standards in sports. So like I said, Nigeria is happening to university sports in Nigeria, and it's something that we are now looking at in a situation where instead of excessively depending on the universities and the government, we're now coming out to, personally appeal to well-meaning Nigerians and of course the corporate bodies to get into university sports, develop these facilities. The universities are open to public-private partnerships where you can build hostels, build these facilities, maintain them, and have the universities use them. So that's where we are as an association or as a system.
Which comes first? Is it the chicken or the egg? Anyway, Onome, you went to Uniben, and I know that it has not changed. The system has not changed to date. That every student, every undergraduate pays an annual sports levy without fail up till today. We have universities, 40,000 student capacity, 30,000, and even more. When you add up these figures of sports levies that are collected, compulsory is mandatory, collected, and yet you don't see what these funds are used for, don't you start to ask other questions? No, this is Onome. I'm not asking you a question, just for you to contribute. You had your own experience in Uniben, of course.
Okay, funny enough, this same China that Chide buried them are going to was the one we went to after we came, I think, third in football in ABU in Zaria in 99. The likes of, what was his name now, that used to play for this guy that went to Ladoke Akintola University, Sheyi Olofijano, were the team that went to China in 2001. But this is my take, Mr. Speaker. For universities in Nigeria, Nigeria, I like what she said about Nigeria happening to university sports. If you have a vice chancellor that loves sports, there is no way your sports will not thrive. Now, my director of sports when I was in school, and the person of late Professor Wahid Oshodi. Professor Oshodi took sports like our oxygen in Uniben in my time. And funny enough, he ensured that the Uniben team was ably represented in ABU's area, because I think he was either the vice president or the president of NUGA, as at the time this happened in 2000 or 2001, thereabout. Now, immediately after that NUGA games, the World University Games, I think in 4 years after, Professor Oshodi became the Vice Chancellor of Uniben. I personally started sponsoring footballing activities and sporting activities in Uniben because he would not let me rest. He would always call me to say, Onome, come, we're doing this, we're doing that. Then the lady who was our athletics coach when I was in school was now the director of sports in Uniben. So sports started picking up. And then my namesake, who we played together for University of Benin team with the popular Kalisto Sebare, who is now the, I think he's the director of sports in AIT. Onome is his name, became the coach of the University of Benin team. So Uniben sports started catching fire. Why? Because the vice chancellor was a sports person, and as such, they would not allow those of us who they knew were very active when we were students in doing sports to thrive. So I think that also still plays out till date. I have forgotten university sports. I have not been part of anything in university sports in almost 15 years. But I can say for free that the only advantage universities will have, I might be wrong, but this is what I met and this is what I partook in, is if your vice chancellor or your director of sports is a sports lover. I remember when Uniben hosted WAOG in 1995. The director of sports in Uniben was my uncle, he's late now, Mr. Israel Akota. Sports in Uniben was at its highest level. WAOG in 95 was so brilliantly done that I remember the football event was between Unilag and Uniben. The football finals, the game was meant to start at 4. By 1 p.m., Uniben Sports Complex was full to capacity. Athletics, weightlifting, boxing, all sorts of sports were getting enough attention. I'm talking of 1995 now, because my late uncle, Israel Akota, may so rest in peace, ensured that sports thrived in Uniben as at that year. And by the time I speak to Terry Badagry, who was also the stepson of the popular NFF Secretary General, Patrick Okpomo then, me and Terry still gist about that. We spoke about it about 2 weeks ago. Terry will tell you that his stepfather would ensure that the university games got what they deserve. So then, university sports had what it needed in terms of the personnel who were anchoring it. I don't know anything about it now. Luckily, my dear friend Chidebere is the acting general secretary. She can tell us more. If these universities have these personalities who love sports, in ABU Zaria and in BUK Kano, when I was in school, Mr. Speaker, in my late years in 99, their VCs and directors of sports carried sports on their head that when we went for Nuga, it was like war. It was like the FIFA World Cup. And I was wondering, we're in university now, what is all this? Then BUK came with 4 players from Kano Pillars. We now started protesting and found out that they were actually in Kano Pillars, but they were students. So the truth of the matter is, Professor Oshodi, I think, also took that cue from the BUK guys, because they now started giving students opportunity to play for clubs, or rather, they started allowing players who were playing in clubs to be students so that it could help school sports. And as such, it now became very competitive that when we were playing matches, people would come and protest that they would not allow Uniben to play. Then, because we had 4 league players in our team, Abraka then had one popular player called, I think his name is White. Also, it was very competitive, Mr. Speaker. So I don't know what is happening now, but if not for Chidebere, the truth is I didn't even remember that I played 3 Nuga games and that Nuga was like our own World Cup when I was in school. But talking to Chidebere, it gives me back memories, chills of how Uniben, when I had left school a year after or 2 years after I left school, Uniben won gold in football in Ife when they defeated University of Uyo or University of Calabar in the finals penalty shootout and won the gold medal. And I had just left school. I just finished my youth service, or I think I was in youth service, and it was celebrated by Professor Oshodi as if the team had won the CAF Champions League. So I think the individuals running sports in those universities, I think they have a whole lot to do. I will end with this in order not to take our time. Chidebere, I don't know if you remember when Unilag hosted Nuga in 97, right? I think that was my second Nuga in 97. The vice chancellor of Unilag then, I'm forgetting his name now. Nuga was so well attended in Unilag in 97 that we thought we were actually abroad, playing a major tournament. It was so well organized that was the year we also heard that the vice chancellor ensured that most of the lecturers in Unilag had land in the waterlogged part of Lagos then, which was called Lekki, which is now today where I stay. It was waterlogged then. But that Nuga I will never forget in 97, we heard how he ensured all the lecturers in Unilag got land. It became something that was worth doing and they got rewarded for it, right? So I think what your Nuga association needs to do is to, like we've said in all sports regarding how the Mr. Speaker were picked from secondary school to play for the national team. Henry Wosu was in secondary school. They were invited to national team, Stephen Keshi, Sefin Bass, and all of that. I think you have to go back to the drawing board, to the basics, and try and see. I remember when Stephen Keshi invited a player in youth service to come and play for the Super Eagles, and everybody was shouting. And I was laughing because when I was in Uniben, I know how many club sites were after me, that I should come and play. I should come and play for them. When I was 7 in Mina, Niger Tornadoes did not allow me rest one day. This same Ladan Boso, they did not allow me rest one day, So it is actually like Mr. Speaker said, it was actually a very good place to harvest talents for the nation and for club sides. Joseph Cole, my teammate then, who was playing in Dolphin, Koliko, like we used to call him, he stays in school for only 2 days. Dolphin will come. Are you talking about Gabriel Jigbale that was in Ife, that Insurance Abiwa Club was he playing for, will come and pick him from school on Tuesdays because of league matches? So for me, I think you need to go back to the basics. And please pardon me, I've been using football because that's what I played in school. I mean, I played for Uniben Lions from 96 till I left school. So I will speak about the experience I had when I went to Nuga in Zaria. I was the overall contingent captain for Uniben. I know what I gave. I know what I got. I know what I experienced in Zaria, So for me, I think you need to go back to the basics to really get to find out how the schools that are participating in Nuga can get people that genuinely love sports and will take part in sports with their whole heart to bring back the glory days in Nuga. Like I said, I might be wrong because anything Nuga, I think in the last 15 to 18 years, I've not been actively involved since Professor Oshodi left as Vice Chancellor of the University of Benin. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Okay. Mr. Speaker, if I may contribute or point a few things, I think Uniben still has a very viable. I think that culture has remained because the current Vice Chancellor, Professor Lillian Salami, she facilitated a very fantastic meeting for us yesterday with the Deputy Governor of Edo State, who we all know is a very sports-loving man, which is where Nuga will be hosting the trials for the World. The largest contingent to the Nuga Games last year, 245 athletes, if I'm not mistaken. But the thing is, like Onome has said, it's a situation where how much does the Vice Chancellor love sports? You see the universities like University of Port Harcourt, ABU, BUK, currently Now University, and even in recent times now, Nnamdi Azikiwe University. These are all because the Vice Chancellors seem to love sports, but these are not systems we can maintain because it now depends on individuals. If we can, for instance, Nuga remains in a limbo. We are neither financially under the Ministry of Sports nor under the Ministry of Education. In 1995 and 1998 that Onome is mentioning, Nuga was heavily sponsored first in the early 90s by Ministry of Sports, and then in 1995 by the Ministry of Education. And then since then, I think since 1998, we've been in heavy limbo, which has not helped us because every association depends on the financial involvement that gets in there. So you get students to pay levies how much and how many events can you create with those levies? Like I said, Nigeria is happening to university sports, and we need to get, we have made several attempts at the Ministry of Education, at the Ministry of Sports. We've applied to TED Fund, even, and they'll tell you that sports is not under their mandate. This is a tertiary education fund, and sports is not under their mandate. So these are situations that we are currently struggling with. And if we can overcome these situations, then we will be able to create or recreate that vibe. Nigerian youth are interested in sports, but when you have to choose between your exams and sports, considering the fact that it's only just about maybe 3% of student athletes who go on to make it professionally, then you begin to wonder, is it worth missing your exams for? But like I said, if universities know that XYZ amount of money is coming into my university through sports, then they will definitely make an avenue, create a space for student athletes who do not take their exams or their tests or their quizzes or even take their classes. Right now, there's so much that can be done within the academic system that students can even be away the whole semester and still be part of the academic system. There's hybrid education ongoing right now that we can capitalize on. But all this depends on the financial involvement in sports in Nigerian universities, which is where we struggle. Mr. Speaker, as I talk to you right now, we are struggling to raise money to take our athletes to the World University Games. The ambition, like I said, I believe in the Nigerian youth. I believe that we can do things if we put our heads to it. This is an avenue. This is an angle that Nigerian youth have always excelled at. We all know in Nigeria, all we need is a little opportunity. If we can get under the Ministry of Sports or under the Ministry of Education to fund these activities, these events, because they are not just for sports. In this day and time, there's what FISU calls the dual career path, where they encourage you not just to be excellent sports people, but also, to pursue an academic career that eventually leads you to your future if you don't go professional or even after you have finished your career. So that's where we are. Mr. Speaker, help us raise this case. we need to raise money.
Yeah. Chidi Ebere, I will tell you one or two things for free of charge. One or two things. You see, you have to have the products. You have to have the athletes that are doing well for either corporate Nigeria or individuals who are rich enough to come and want to invest in those products. If you just say, oh, we are going to the games, we have events to go to, and you do not actually now, pinpoint athletes. Toby Amushan, she's in the University of Benin and she's doing well and she's going to the games and so on. You have to attach names and faces to sport. That is critical. The second thing I will tell you is, look, I was the chairman of one small body called NASCOM. NASCOM was the National Association of Academicals or something like that. I was made chairman by Mr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan, the former president. And I needed to sell an idea to all universities in Nigeria. I needed to sell an idea to them. It was an absolutely brilliant idea. It was to be funded by a bank. And I got in touch with the Minister for Education at the time. And he wrote to the Committee of Vice Chancellors that I was coming to address them on an issue related to sports within the universities. This one was actually universities or tertiary institutions, as a matter of fact. And in fact, I had to speak with secondary school groups as well. They had a meeting in the University of Nigeria, Nsukka. And I got up and went to the University of Nigeria, Nsukka, and I addressed the Committee of Vice Chancellors. All vice chancellors were there, and I sold this idea to them, and it was bought. What I'm telling you is that if there's a brilliant idea and you can package it, because this is a season of ignorance where vice chancellors truly do not appreciate the power of sports to transform, the power of sports to influence, even education within the universities themselves. Sport made some of the most brilliant Nigerians that you can think of. Professor Tony Omorege, the Etomi brothers, George Etomi, Mike Etomi, they were all athletes. They were cricket players, they were footballers in the University of Ife. They were some of the most brilliant Nigerians you can find around now. And they practice their sports within the university system. So we need to let the vice chancellors, because they are key in this project. Once the vice chancellors see it, they can influence development in their universities. But they focus so much on not having funds to run their programs, research programs, to run their academic programs and all of that, they forget that sport could actually influence a lot of development. I gave you that instance. If ordinary me, not even from the university system, could create the opportunity to address the whole vice chancellors in Nigeria at an event, what are you talking about? And you are talking of NUGA, being at a standstill. You are talking, look, you need to address the people who can bring up that change. Those are the vice chancellors. You need to get people who have the message to go and deliver that message to the vice chancellors. Just my own tip to you, those two things. Chidebere.
It is very much appreciated, Mr. Speaker. The Committee of Vice Chancellors have actually, they've done a whole lot to try to help us push the games. We are indeed trying to put faces to our marketing strategies, quote and unquote. But we are also in a situation where your best athletes are picked up by the NCAA as soon as they're doing well enough. So we also struggle with that. And
because
then
you don't encourage them to remain. You don't encourage them to remain. That's the problem. At home here, you don't encourage them to remain. We picked up a student, 200 level in Obafemi Awolowo University in Ife, who went to a university in the US and had to start from scratch, just because there was no encouragement in Ife. He played for 3 years in the US. From there, he went to Turkey to play his professional football, and so on and so forth. There was no encouragement in one of the most influential universities in sports in Nigeria. That's Obafemi Awolowo University. He left at 200 level to go and start again. It's about encouragement. The OAU of those days, no student would leave it to go to America. But now they will rush to go. That's the difference.
That's true. Like I said, we are indeed, I came into the association because I see what is achievable within university sports system, and I hope to bring it home to Nigeria. We are doing our best. The financial constraints continues to become a worry. We are working on various angles, and one of those angles is using our alumni. Onome, you get my email in the morning, We'll bring you back to university sports space.
That's a billionaire.
Also, Mr. Speaker.
Onome is a billionaire.
The Vice Chancellor of Uniben sent me a letter, I think 3 years ago, when she just became a VC, thanking me for all the things I've been doing for the school. And that's the last time I heard from them. And I thank God, because it's one less stress that has left.
I will remind them, because
let me take care of my young wife and my young family.
Uniben will be hosting Nigerian students for the trial.
Yes, that was where we were. That was when NUGA camped everybody in 2000, if I'm not mistaken.
So we'll be doing the same again. We'll be doing the same again. So
the Deputy Governor of Edo State will help a lot.
Yes, he is. We met with him yesterday. So grateful. He's such a fantastic man. He was very receptive. Even Edo State itself would play a key role in this. So I'm very grateful. Like, I have to mention them exceptionally because the reception yesterday was good, both from Professor Lillian and the Deputy Governor. So I want to say kudos to them. They're doing really well. But this is also an opportunity, Mr. Speaker. I know you have a lot of big people that listen to this show. We are appealing. We have young talent. We have Nigerians who are doing really well. This is an opportunity. Just like Onome had the opportunity to go and play other internationals. This is a platform where if our athletes begin now to know that there are certain tests you have to take before you get to a certain stage in your career, or there are certain certifications as a judoka or a taekwondo player that you need to have before you get to that level, then we will not struggle when we get to the national level. Why? Because we will not just have athletes who are good at their sport. We'll have intelligent, well-educated athletes who will represent Nigeria at the highest level. So I am really hoping that this opens a lot of doors for us as we continue to try to push the cause of university sports forward.
Okay, well, Satish has been sitting quietly listening to all of us now. Before Satish says anything, I would just finally tell you, Chidebere, that I would want to ask you first, how prepared are the athletes to go to China and come back with medals? Because that's very important. When they be the time to actually sell Nigerian students and sports together in combination. So it's a challenge to you. But Satish has been sitting quietly and listening to us talk about university sports in Nigeria. Any thoughts at all, Satish?
Yeah, I would like to ask the other parliamentarians, do you have any problems with people realizing that sport is a way of getting an education, or even not getting an education, but getting opportunities, and that they get scholarships that really they don't deserve? And the end result of it is that they might do well, and the university might do well with them in sporting field, but after they've left, you don't actually get any benefit from it, and nor do they, because they haven't had the education. Are there actually any categories, or not categories as such, but any requirements that you have to actually attend classes, you have to get an education, and you have to be able to give back to Nigerian society afterwards?
Okay, so those are the systems we're trying to build. Yes, there are a few universities where the systems are in place. Some universities admit students solely based on their sporting capacity, but it's not at an elaborate situation where it is embraced on all borders. So like Onome said earlier, it all depends on the university's vice chancellor at the time. And then, of course, the efforts of the sports directorate in first identifying the talent and then, proposing those talents to universities. We still also have the fact that the Department of Physical and Health Education, most universities hold trials to get students into the universities. But for Nigeria, it's still a situation where not every parent and not every child on the street knows that you can get into universities through sports. So those are part of the things our rebranding has to identify with and